Okay, so let's begin. So this session I am recapping the session on fracture mechanics, which I have posted already on YouTube. So as in the last case, I will go through the session quickly, highlighting the major points, and then we will go together through the quiz. In this case, there is no option of polling. So I'll put the questions of the quiz online, and then we'll discuss each questions one after another. And then any questions you have, we will go through that. And in Google Meet, you have option of keeping the captions on, so that if your voice quality is not good, then you can read through the captions. Okay, so let me begin with the session which I have already put on the YouTube. Okay, so on the screen you will see the first title screen of the session. So this is regarding fracture mechanics. So fracture mechanics is a subject which considers presence of cracks. Unlike the homogeneous ideal material, what we consider in strength of material, here you are considering presence of cracks. And in presence of cracks, how much is the life of component or how to size the component is the focus of this subject. So initially I covered a lot of failure cases, which will highlight the need of, or it highlights the need of starting this or further research in subject started because of that. In the subject of fracture mechanics, there is brittle and ductile fractures. So as far as possible, we want the material to be of ductile nature so that it takes long enough time before the crack propagates. In fracture mechanics, the brittle fracture is the one which is most feared phenomena. In the brittle fracture, the crack growth happens very rapidly, whereas in ductile fracture, the crack growth happens slowly. So that is what is desired. And how do we measure this particular property, that is the ductility of the material? You have already seen in strength of material that you can use the Charpy impact test in order to check the energy absorbed before the fracture. But that particular method is not precise enough to give more quantifiable results, and we use a more precise method, which we are later going to see, with what is known as fracture toughness of the material. So that gives us quantifiable number using which you can determine what is the remaining life or how much load a particular size of crack can take. The Charpy impact test cannot give this particular information. Otherwise, the differentiation between the brittle and ductile materials can be done using the Charpy impact test as well. But for fracture mechanics purpose, we use another test, which we will see later. There are two approaches. One is material science based and another is the mechanistic based. So here we are looking into the mechanistic based. So this is not purely based on physics. That is the model, the material model that we are using here is not the real material model. So we are assuming in this course, we are considering linear elastic material. So material is considered to be infinitely elastic, which is not true in actual case. But still, what you mean by mechanistic model are those models which gives you result without having foundation on the physics of the problem. So this LEFM or linear elastic fracture mechanics gives you good enough results to be useful for practicing engineers. Okay, so there are two main parts. On the right hand side, what you see are known as linear elastic fracture mechanics approach, which was developed in the beginning. and which is simple enough and practical enough. So it gives accurate results which can be used for day-to-day calculations. However, if you require more precision, later on the shoulder of LEFM, EPFM or elastic plastic fracture mechanics was developed, which gives you more precise information about crack growth, especially if the loads are very high. The in front of the crack tip, you will get a plastic zone will get formed, and this retards the crack growth. So LEFM will give you conservative result. It assumes that the material is elastic, whatever may be the load. However, in real material, because of formation of plastic zone, the actual material resists the crack growth better than what is predicted by LEFM. And in case you require more accurate analysis, the elastic plastic fracture mechanics approach is used. We are going to see only the linear elastic plastic LEFM approach in this particular case. Within that, the stress intensity factor approach is the one which will be going in more details. So there are advantages of LEFM which are described in this slide. The one which you have to remember is this approach is valid if the plastic zone is much smaller than the actual crack length. So how do you decide how much is the size of plastic zone? So there are some calculations involved there. However, in this course, we are not going to look into estimation of the plastic zone size. So within LEFM, there are approaches to take into account the plastic zone and check whether the plastic zone size is small enough to qualify that problem for LEFM. That qualification part is not covered in this course, but assuming that such check exists, you first ensure that the plastic zone size is small enough, and then you can apply the LEFM approach more confidently. So that is main point of this slide. Next, we talked about the historical background and how this particular subject evolved through investigation of anomaly between the real strength of the material, that is the ultimate tensile strength of the steel is 450 MPa, for example. However, if you calculate for steel-like alloy using physics-like approach, you will find that the strength is something, expected strength at which the steel should break is something like 4,500 MPa. So there is a huge difference between the theoretical estimation and what real material gives. So Griffith did research on this, and he proved that in the presence of practical size cracks, so he says that 0.5 micrometer size cracks, if they exist in the material, the strength can reduce by the scale what we talked about. So that at that time, there was no concept of fracture mechanics. So he did all his work based on the stress concentration factor for a assumed shape of the crack, and calculating the stresses around the crack, he predicted and he used the energy approach, which we are not covering. So he said that how much energy physics demands for separation of surfaces within the material structure. Using stress concentration approach, you can calculate the stress field around the crack tip, and you can calculate how much energy can be supplied through that stress field, the strain energy based approach. And that is how this subject started. So the subject started in the energy based approach with linear elastic materials, and later on the other concept, that is the stress intensity factor based method, got developed. Okay, one of the most important thing in fracture mechanics is if you consider a material, the crack can exist in any orientation, and the loading can also be very different. You can have a shaft subjected to axial pull, torsion, bending, and crack within a shaft can be oriented in any direction. So how to deal with such infinite combinations was the first question to be solved. So after a detailed study of the subject, it was established that there are only three modes which are to be studied, and any real life problem can be modeled as a combination of these three modes. So there are three modes. The first mode is known as the opening mode, So where the load is perpendicular to the crack face, so the crack face in this case would be as shown by the hatched line here. So this is known as opening mode. So in the opening mode, the crack faces open with respect to each other. So if you look at my video, so this is the opening mode. So where the two crack faces open with respect to each other. In the YouTube video, you can see the animation as well. In the sliding mode, the two surfaces slide with respect to each other. The forces push one surface and pull another surface. So again, if you look at my video in this session, you'll find that the surfaces, if these are the two crack surfaces, they slide over each other. And the bottom of my hands, bottom of my palm, which is the crack tip, there the crack grows by sliding action. And the last mode is the known as the tearing mode. So in this mode, the two surfaces, they tear or they separate out of plane with respect to each other. So that is, these are the three modes which are there. And later on, we have seen the examples of how these practical problems, each of these modes can be identified. So for any problem, the first skill in the fracture mechanics lies in identifying which mode of failure we are talking about, and then apply appropriate equations to calculate, to do the further calculations. So there are many examples. Those are explained in the online session, which you can see separately. And in the quiz, we will have a few of them. Okay, having identified that instead of infinite number of combinations that you have to deal with, you have to only deal with 3 situations. We will now look into the mode 1 scenario, which is the most commonly analyzed one. Now we once we know that crack is there and it is subject to certain type of load, and in this discussion we are assuming that it is a mode 1 type of situation, we would obviously like to know what is the nature of stresses in front of the crack tip. In fact, what we are not interested in stresses, we want to know whether the object will be able to sustain the load or it will not sustain the load. So stress is just a parameter which we know from strength of materials. So at this stage, you will be thinking that if you know the stresses in front of the crack tip, you can have some judgment about whether the component will fail or it will not fail. If you apply the linear elastic fracture mechanics, that is, if you assume the material to be linear elastic and calculate the stresses in front of the crack tip, which the next slide I'm going to show, you will find that the stresses at the crack tip are infinite. So as such, the stress calculation doesn't help, but these stress calculations lead to an important observation that we will have look. So here, a mode 1 situation, a crack, which is subjected to uniform stresses in all directions. So you have a plate which is pulled equally in the horizontal and vertical direction, and the crack is horizontal. If you calculate the stresses in X, Y, and Z direction, you'll find that all these stresses are inversely proportional to the distance from the crack tip. So here R is the dimension, which is the distance between the point of interest, which is shown on the left bottom figure. So this is R, and the origin of this coordinate system is the crack tip. So as you move closer and closer to the crack tip, you will find that the stresses tend to infinity. So really, this doesn't help you to determine whether the material is going to fail or it is not going to fail. So here the important concept of fracture mechanics comes in. So just like in fracture in solid mechanics, we had the concept of stress. So stress is not something which you physically sense. You physically sense the load. If somebody pulls your hand, you will feel the pull on your hand. You don't really calculate the force divided by area of your hand, and that is the stress. So we involve the concept of stress in order to deal with the situation. So when that particular component will break, in order to determine, we evolved the concept of stress, and then we found out another property which is known as yield strength, and we limit the stress value within the yield strength. You say that the design is safe. So that is a classical approach, that stress should be less than the yield strength. That is what I have written on the slide. In fracture mechanics, there is a similar new term which is getting introduced. So in this formula, you will find a term for the equation for sigma x on the slide. I'm just highlighting that. You will find the term K underscore 1. So this term is known as stress intensity factor. So just like stress in in strength of materials, the stress intensity factor is a derived quantity. So this quantity, but it is much, the physical significance of this quantity is more complex than that of stress. So stress we physically can visualize as intensity of force, so force per unit area. However, the stress intensity factor cannot be visualized so easily. The stress intensity factor you can visualize as an indicator of what is the nature of stress field around the crack tip. So if stress intensity factor is higher, just to elaborate, it means that the distribution of stresses around the crack tip would be more severe than if the stress intensity factor would have been lower. So we know that maximum stress is infinity, and that is at the crack tip, whatever may be your stress intensity factor. But the idea of the gross distribution of the stress around the crack tip would be given by this particular parameter, stress intensity factor. Later on, we will see how to calculate this stress intensity factor. But at this stage, you have to remember that this is a quantity which is specially introduced to have a judgment or to have the criteria for failure of component in presence of crack tip. So just like the equation sigma less than sigma y we have written, we have in fracture mechanics, the governing equation is given as K, that is a stress intensity factor, should be less than a material property which we call as a fracture toughness. So that we will define later on. So this is a material property. So in fracture toughness, you have fracture mechanics, you have stress intensity factor for a given crack and load combination, which should be less than another material property, which is again a new property, which you are not learned till now. The subscript 1 to this stress intensity factor, so you have K1, that 1 refers to mode 1. So similarly, the solution can be obtained for mode 2, which would be given as K underscore Roman 2. And for mode 3, it is K underscore Roman 3. So these are the stress intensity factor, and there are different solutions available for different types of loadings. Okay, Okay, so here the governing equation is K1 equal to K1C, where K1C is a material property which is known as fracture toughness. So fracture toughness is a property which is experimentally obtained, and K1 or stress intensity factor is the one which is obtained by one of the three ways. There are analytical solutions available for certain cases. In most of the cases, you can do finite element analysis, or third, you can do experimental or photoelastic studies to obtain the value of the stress intensity factor. Okay, then some advantages of stress intensity factor. So the main advantage is that it allows, once you know that the component has got a crack, you can tell whether the crack, in the presence of crack, that component is safe or not safe. So if you take the example of your course project, so in your diving board, during inspection, somebody tells that there is a crack of the size 1 millimeter oriented in certain direction at particular location. Using strength of material, you will not be able to tell whether that crack size is acceptable or not acceptable. Using fracture mechanics, for that crack configuration, you can calculate the stress intensity factor for your diving board, whatever is the material, that is a fiberglass, I believe. So for that material, you need to get the fracture toughness. And if the stress intensity factor for that crack, that means the crack at a particular location subjected to particular loading, is less than the fracture toughness of the diving board material, then your crack is safe. So again, depending on the loading and orientation of the crack, you have to first get which mode of failure is there, and then depending on mode of fracture, the stress intensity factor can be searched. So there are handbooks and many compilation of stress intensity factors which are available, which we'll see later. So as such, practicing engineers don't have to derive the stress intensity factor for each and every case. Luckily, this subject is more than now 70 years old, and there is a lot of standard stress intensity factors for common situations have already been established. So for most of the common problems, like your diving board type of problem, you can get ready-made stress intensity factor for given orientation of the crack, and you can solve that particular problem. The stress intensity factor, as I said, can be obtained either analytical solution or experimental method or numerical method or finite element based methods. All these solutions are compiled in certain stress intensity factor handbooks, and there are many handbooks which are listed here. The stress intensity factors are given in terms of in all these handbooks as the nominal stress around the crack multiplied by under root pi times a, where a is the crack length and y is known as geometric shape factor. So if you have a crack inside a flat plate, so you have a flat plate subjected to axial pull, and you have a crack embedded into the plate, what the geometric factor y does is it takes into account the effect of width of your plate. So the ratio of crack length to the width of the plate, based on that, the stress intensity factor changes. So the geometric factor does that correction. So if this plate is infinite, you can obtain an analytical solution. However, if the plate is of finite width, then you have to correct that solution for infinite width, which is theoretically can be found out. And those factors are listed as the geometric correction factor. And this page shows an extract from design handbook, which gives you the stress intensity factor. And yeah, so the factor can be available either in the table form or in the chart form or in the graph form. Okay, now coming to the other side of equation. So stress intensity factor, the basic equation of fracture mechanics is stress intensity factor should be less than fracture toughness of the material. So having obtained the stress intensity factor using the design handbook, how do you obtain the other side of the equation, that is the material property, which is fracture toughness? So for obtaining fracture toughness, there are specific experiments or test methods which are available, just like tensile test you did on universal testing machine. There are special machines to conduct the fracture toughness testing, and in our department we have recently purchased a machine using which you can calculate the fracture toughness of the materials. So you require a specimen which are having a standardized crack into them. So using those cracked specimens, you can establish the value of fracture toughness of the material. Now it is found out that the fracture toughness of material is depends on the thickness of the specimens. So for very thin specimens, the fracture toughness is different, and very thick specimens, it is different. So the chart here shows on the horizontal axis thickness of the specimen or your component. On an y-axis, it shows the fracture toughness of the material. That is, the fracture toughness is nothing. There is a procedure for establishing that. Essentially, it means the stress intensity factor at which the unstable crack happens. So remember, K1 equal to K1C. So K1C can be experimentally found out when K1, the highest value of K1 that particular specimen can sustain. So if you have thin specimen, so left-hand side of this graph, this is thin components, you will find that the stress intensity factor at which thin components fail is higher than those for the thin components, which is the rightmost part of this particular graph. And after certain thickness, which is known as critical thickness, the fracture toughness doesn't decrease further. So initially it is high, then it decreases, and then it stabilizes. So for all design calculations, you use this stabilized fracture toughness value, which is also known as plane strain fracture toughness value. So that is the takeaway from this slide, that there is, although the fracture toughness or the material property differs with respect to thickness, for calculation purpose, you take a conservative approach. So even though your component may be thin, you assume it to be thick, where the fracture toughness will reduce, and take the fracture toughness values for that material. This is done because otherwise you require test for different thicknesses, which is very, and these tests are lengthy and time consuming. So one would not do that unless your component is very critical. In that case, you will do the testing yourself for your thickness and establish fracture toughness for your material at that thickness. In general, the practicing engineers use the plane strain fracture toughness value, which is also known as K1C. That is for mode 1, it is K1C. For mode 2, it will be K2C, and so on. So this is picture of the material which our department has, which can do the testing. Then we had a numerical problem which considered a clamp which is having a crack. So here on the vertical leg of this C clamp, you find that there is a crack of size 5 millimeters. So you have to establish what is the maximum load that this frame can take. And K1C value or fracture toughness of this material is given. Another point to be noted is unit of this fracture stress intensity factor. So if you remember, the stress intensity factor is given as sigma under root pi a multiplied by y. So this MPa comes from sigma, so that is MPa, and this under root a is under root meter. So that is how the unit of the stress intensity factor comes in. The geometric shape factor is dimensionless, so it does not have any unit. So the unit of stress intensity factor or the fracture toughness are same, and they are to be carefully observed in the calculations. Okay, and for this particular case, the stress intensity factor is given for axial load and also given for bending moment. So if you look at this particular problem, what the factors what we are seeing, they are given for a plate with an edge crack. So this is known as edge crack, in contrast to the mid crack, which is fully enclosed by the width. So the edge crack is something which is existing on one of the edge of the component. So for a plate of finite width subjected to axial load and having an edge crack, the stress intensity factor is given by the first formula. So this gives you for axial load what is the stress intensity factor, and the second formula gives, in our problem we are having the component is subjected to, so if you shift this force P, which is acting away from the vertical leg of the C, since this force is offset, when you bring it to the centroid, you will have an moment which will get created. So when you translate this force at the centroid of the vertical leg, you will have the force P plus P multiplied by the distance between the load and the centroid of this plate. So that is 150 plus 40 by 2. So that is how you calculate the moment acting on this particular vertical leg. And then you calculate the, for that case, the vertical plate with edge crack subjected to moment, the stress intensity factors are given there. Okay, so that completes the recap of the topic of fracture mechanics. So essentially, you have to remember that, or something which is new, which you have to dwell upon and understand clearly, is the concept of stress intensity factor. It is difficult to grasp in the first go, so maybe I suggest you read through the textbook and spend some time to understand what that particular thing means. It's more complex than the concept of stress. I'm sure when you were first introduced to the concept of stress and strain, you'd have also, although now most of you would be comfortable dealing with stress and strain, but in the beginning those concepts were something difficult. So the stress intensity factor is a new animal and you will have to understand it properly. Okay, so after this, I would just go through the quiz, which again covers most of the topics that we have done. But before that, if you have any questions or doubts, you can ask them now.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, so this like if the crack has a particular shape, so
Yeah.
so does this factor like at what point is this factor the is like at what point does the value actually like where does the like at what point is the value the calculated internet the factor?
The value is calculated, the stress intensity is calculated at the instantaneous size of the crack. So if I understand your question correctly, what you are imagining is that the crack is growing, and at which length of the crack will you calculate this factor for checking the failure? Is that what you are asking?
Not exactly like if the crack has a particular length, so so like along any point on its edge or at the tip, the factor will be the same.
Oh, okay, okay. So I got, you are asking at which point, which location the stress intensity factor is calculated. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is unlike the concept of stress where you calculate the stress at a particular point and stress changes from point to point. Okay, so stress intensity is not like that. So stress intensity is something like it is not related to a particular location. It is related to a particular crack, length of the crack, and the load acting on it. So the stress intensity factor is not calculated at any location. It is calculated for a combination of crack size and load. So if you are imagining that stress intensity is calculated at the tip of the crack or 1 millimeter away from the crack, it would be different. That is not the case. The stress intensity is for a given combination of crack size and load, those are acting on that crack.
All right, sir.
So can we consider definite shapes, slots, or circles, or something like a fracture, or it is to be considered under stress concentration part or under fracture mechanics part? My imagination was that I'm thinking of a plate having hole, and
Okay,
side pressures are we are applying pressures on the sides of the plate. So we will
okay.
be considering it in stress concentration or fracture mechanics.
No, if you are having a hole and the holes are regular ones, then it is a stress concentration problem. So fracture mechanics comes in picture when you know that that circle is having some micro cracks on its surface, and you have some means of knowing size of those cracks. So like by doing some NDT, some non-destructive testing about that holes, you can find out the size of the crack. You can do like dye penetrant test around the crack. So what I mean is that if this is the hole you are talking about, which is subjected to some axial load that you are telling,
Hmm.
this is problem of stress concentration. The regular study or regular engineers would use stress concentration approach to design the thickness to withstand to size the plate in the presence of this hole. If over the time this particular hole has some crack gets developed, so if you go to any operating plant, you will find that routinely they will be doing non-destructive testing like dye penetrant test or ultrasonic test on their critical machines to identify if any defect has formed over the time by fatigue or cyclic loading. So if you observe that in this particular hole, at some point there is a crack of, let's say, 1 micron size has been formed. 1 micron is very difficult to obtain by the dye-penetrant test. Let's say 0.5 millimeter crack has formed. Now you want to know whether to continue running this particular component or that machine, or you have to replace that part. So for that purpose, the fracture mechanics would be used. It will not be used for regular design calculations where the stress concentration approach would be used. So this is useful only if you are doing some residual life calculation, that is component is in service and you want to establish what is the residual life in the presence of some known defect, or at the design stage where the product is yet on the drawing board and the product is very critical, like you are making a body of a space rocket. So there is no time or option of checking the rocket when it flies. So there you have to take into account that what kind of defect could exist in that rocket body, rocket casing body, based on the NDT methods which we will be employing on the manufacturing side. So in such critical components, you assume there would exist certain cracks. These crack sizes are assumed based on the tolerance of your NDT methods. So suppose that rocket casing you are building in a manufacturing shop, and it has got the ultrasonic testing facility which can detect cracks, let's say up to 250 micrometers, and below that it is not accurate enough. So we'll assume that that rocket body has got cracks of 250 micrometers, and then you assuming the crack is oriented in the worst direction of 250 millimeters, you design that component. So the design based on fracture mechanics is employed for very critical components. It is not done for regular parts. Like for your course project, I have told you to check using fracture mechanics for the diving board. So definitely not for diving board, the fracture mechanics approach would be overkill. So that is not. That is how I would answer your question. So for a hole inside a plate, if you want to do calculations, fracture mechanics is not required.
Thank you, sir.
So are you able to see on your screen? Are you able to see the quiz on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So unlike the Zoom
sir.
platform, you will not be able to poll or answer these on your own. So we'll have to verbally discuss. So the first question is, you have an undersea structure. So which are the effects which are important for the undersea structure? So the fracture mechanics, whenever it is having combination with cyclic loading or aggressive or corrosive atmosphere, it is more dangerous. So the undersea structures, can somebody tell what are the answers? The question what you are seeing on the screen, can somebody tell what are the answers? Okay, so I think the quiz format will be difficult to handle in Google Meet. Yeah, somebody has written corrosion and temperature of water, so that is correct. Will the cyclic load due to waves will be there? Cyclic load will also be there. So thermal creep is not the correct option, so that is not applicable. So let's move ahead. The crack growth during fracture is stable for longer duration than that during brittle fracture. So it is ductile fracture versus brittle fracture. So the statement says that the ductile fracture has got stable crack growth for longer duration than the brittle fracture. So it is true or false? So it is true. That's correct. So I'm just going by answers that few of you are typing on. So most all of you are giving true. Okay, so this I'm just skipping that question based on the differentiation between material science and applied mechanics. I will select only few questions which require proper understanding of the subject. Okay, so let's take the question, which of the following statements are true about LEFM approach? So first statement is that the plastic zone is much smaller than the crack length. So is it applicable to LEFM? So yes, that is correct. So first one is correct. The LEFM approach directly accounts for crack tip plasticity. Is it correct or not correct? So it is not correct. The LEFM does not directly account for the plasticity. That directly word has significance that it in fact indirectly takes care of the plasticity. So in LEFM, there is a concept of plasticity correction. So as I said earlier, in the LEFM approach, you can estimate the size of plastic zone, and based on that estimation, you can decide whether the LEFM is accurate enough for your case. Once you estimate the size of the plastic zone, there is a method by which the crack size is increased to account for the presence of crack that plastic zone. And that way it indirectly takes into account the plastic zone. So that is the significance of directly. It does not directly account for crack tip, but it does it indirectly. The third option, it works for, that is LEFM works for many common engineering problems. So that is correct or not correct? So it's correct. So that is correct option. It is suitable for highly ductile materials. So the question is LEFM suitable for ductile materials? So it is not suitable. So essentially for LEFM to work, the plastic zone size should be small, and for ductile materials, which can yield very easily around the crack tip, you will have a large plastic zone. So this is not a correct option. Okay, so you will see a figure, a simply supported beam with a crack which is eccentric with respect to load. So what is the answer for this? Is this a mode 1, mode 2, or combination of the modes? So it is, yeah, so many of you are giving mode 1 and mode 2, so that is correct. So at this particular location, if you draw the, oh, I cannot draw it on top of this. So at this particular location of the crack, you have both bending moment and the shear force acting on that. So the bending leads to mode 1 and the shear force leads to mode 2. So it is combination of mode 1 and mode 2. Okay, so this question, stress intensity factor depends on which of the following. So it indirectly related to the question what Akshay asked a few minutes back, that stress intensity factor depends on which of the following. So does it depend on stress field around the crack tip? So stress field around the crack tip, I mean, not the equation wise, but the loading which is given in terms of stress. So that is correct. So it depends on the stress field around the crack tip. It means that it depends on the load acting. The distance of the point of interest from the crack tip. That means, does SIF changes at every point around the crack tip? So as I explained, people are giving answer yes to that. So that is not correct. So as I explained to the question asked by Akshay, the stress intensity factor does not depend on the location. So it depends only, so it is sort of label given to your situation. So a crack of certain size subjected to certain load will have a certain stress intensity factor as a whole. So it is not at a particular point. Your entire situation has got a stress intensity factor. So the second is not correct answer. The size of crack is correct. So it depends on the size of crack. Material of component, does the stress intensity factor depend on the material? People are giving answer yes. Is it to material? The stress intensity factor does not depend on the material of the components. The fracture toughness depends on the material of the component. The stress intensity factor is purely load and geometry based. That is a crack size and the load based. So it does not depend on the material. Orientation of crack. So that is correct. The orientation determines whether you are having essentially the orientation of load with respect to crack. That is important for SIF calculations. Then you have to pay close attention to the units of stress intensity factor. That is the next question. You have to remember that the Y factor or the geometric shape factor is dimensionless. Yeah, so these are the questions I think are more critical or more confusing amongst the other questions. And now the session is open for any questions that you have. So all the sessions henceforth, I'll be issuing the practicing questions and not any assignment problems. So till now, whatever assignments you have done, so you have to complete that, and most of you have submitted it. If not, then submit it now. And for each of the sessions, I'll be giving some practicing questions which will help you to understand the subject. So the corresponding, before we close, the problem which is associated with this assignment, I will just, okay, so the practice problem which is given in this associated with this particular topic is you are having a sphere which is subjected to internal pressure and there is a crack as shown in this particular diagram of known size. So you have to calculate using the classical approach and using the fracture mechanics based approach, what is the safe value, which is, there are three grades of the material which are given. So which grade of the material is suitable based on strength of material approach. So in the SOM approach, you have sigma to be less than sigma yield. So yield strength is given here. And sigma value for a sphere would be given as PD divided by 4T, what you learned in the last semester. So this value would remain except T, everything what is not known here. So, okay, you have to decide what is the value of maximum pressure, so which this sphere can take for different materials. So sigma Y will be different for first, second, and third material. So right hand side will be different, and you have to calculate which material gives you highest pressure. So that is the one which you will select. So that is the SOM based approach. So the answers are given here, and you can find out that the one with highest yield strength will be obviously suitable by the classical approach. Whereas in the fracture mechanics approach, you have the equation. So in the FM approach, you have to use that your SIF should be less than the fracture toughness. Again, the right hand side is given in the table. So there are, for each material, there are different values. And the SIF value for this problem is as given in the hint, it is given as sigma into pi a. So SIF is given sigma into pi a. There is no Y factor here because this crack size is very small corresponding to the plate which is surrounding it. So the Y factor doesn't come into picture. So sigma is again same as PD by 4T where P is unknown. So again using this equation that fracture toughness is K1C. So K1C is known to you and you can calculate what is the safe sigma, and from safe sigma you can calculate what is the safe value of P, and that is how you would solve this particular problem. Okay, I went little quickly, but since you will have recording with you, you can repeat it, or if you have any questions you can ask. Okay, so I'm done with your attendance. So how do you find Google Meet versus the previous week's Zoom? So any feedback on that? Means from your point of view, both experiences are same or any different is there? Okay, so Zoom is better. That is what Rudrajit, Shitika are saying. Aditi is also Zoom. So which way Zoom is better? You can unmute your mic and speak if that is available. Yeah, the online quiz, that's what Rudrajit is saying. So online quiz, yes, definitely. I also missed that. And Karthik likes Google Meet. Goodbye, everyone. And now there are two topics remaining. So this week I will issue session on the energy methods, which part of it you have already done last semester. And then the last topic is material plasticity, which I will be covering last. So bye everyone and take care.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.